everyone. Welcome back to The Authentic Advantage. Today's guest, guys, has literally built a career around stepping into fear before most people would even take their first breath. She's a keynote speaker, a stunt performer, a stunt coordinator, and oh my gosh, a former police officer, world champion skydiver, and someone who has spent years operating in high pressure environments where hesitation has real consequences. But what I love most about Hannah Betts is that she doesn't sell fearlessness. She teaches people how to move while fear is still present. And I think that's a message that's needed now more than ever because so many people are waiting to feel ready before they actually take action in business or in leadership, relationships, life, etc. But Hannah's worked on more than 130 film and television productions, taught military, special forces, advanced free fall techniques, and now speaks to audiences about leadership, resilience, fear, and human behavior through her keynote, Leaning into Fear. This conversation is going to challenge the way you think about courage, pressure, identity, and growth. It's going to be awesome. So let's get right into it. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My goodness, thank you so much for having me. It's always so funny. I never think my career is that unconventional until somebody reads it out and lists it out in front of me.
Right? You're like, I have done that.
It's like, this is weird.
Well, I know I just gave that grand intro, but tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Originally from England, hence the accent. I've been living in California for about 20 years. So, as you said, yeah, I started off my career as a former outdoor adventure instructor turned police officer. I then became a professional skydiver, which moved me to California, which introduced me into coaching and instructing military. Skydiving got me into stunts. I became a full-time Hollywood stuntwoman. And now I use all my learned experience and very intimate relationship with fear to talk on stage and help other people, primarily women, get through fear.
Well, what I'm hearing is you did all that other stuff. It no longer scares you. So now I'm like, I'm just going to go on stage and speak.
Just do the most terrifying thing and get up on stage.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I'm sure people look at your background and probably assume you've never been scared a day in your life. But what is the biggest misconception that people have about fear?
Yeah, you're right. Everybody makes this assumption that I'm fearless or I get labeled an adrenaline junkie or a thrill seeker constantly. And genuinely, it couldn't be further from the truth to the point that I jokingly name myself a professional scaredy cat because I think I'm just scared all the time. I've just found a professional way to move being scared. I think the biggest myth that people think about fear is that it has to disappear for you to take action. And I think they quite often see other people doing extraordinary things, thinking that they're extraordinary people because they don't feel fear. And I think it's quite the opposite. So I think fearlessness is a little bit of a myth that needs to be challenged more.
That's so true. You don't need to have that feeling or it disappears in order for it, but it's always there underlying. And I can contest to that.
Yeah. For it to disappear, you're going to be waiting for a really long time.
Well, which is
Yeah.
why a lot of people are probably still waiting. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Totally.
Was there a time in your life where fear almost won or maybe even has won?
Honestly, I think every pivotal moment in my life when I moved through my careers, even though that may seem like quite a disconnected kind of career choice that I've done, they've actually all been building blocks for the next one. That is given me kind of the confidence and the competence to do the next career. And every point of moving into a new environment or a new career, I have had that's been the scariest for me, going into the unknown, not having clear answers, not knowing whether there's been success. And I've had to battle every single time with that same emotion of going into uncertainty. And it's nearly won every single time, whether it's listening to my own doubts or other people's doubts. So I would say it's nearly won, over and over again. It's something that I'm constantly battling. So I wouldn't say there was one key time
It's
where it
always
nearly got the better.
happening.
It's an ongoing practice.
Yeah. And I know we talked a little bit about confidence. I think a lot of people mistake that, right? Like, oh, well, she looks really confident. Look at her. She's jumping out of airplanes. I mean, I could never do that. But there's a huge difference between the two, right? Like confidence and courage, in your opinion. What is the difference?
So much. Yeah, I think confidence is something that is earned. You don't need confidence to do a courageous thing. It's confidence comes on the backside of courage, right? You need to figure out a way to muster courage to do a thing that you're not confident in. You don't get confidence first. It's the result of what you do. So you need the
Yep.
courage to get the confidence. And I think again, people make this assumption that there's either an element of fearlessness or this inner confidence that allows people to do that. I can straight up, hand on my heart, every new or brave thing that I've done, inside I'm going like this.
Right?
But it, and internally there's many different things going on than what you see on the confident, the calm a face before doing something scary. But yeah, confidence is earned, and you need courage to get the confidence.
You've worked in environments where hesitation has, I mean, if you hesitated, it could literally cost a life, right? And some of these things that you've done, how's that changed the way you look at everyday fear that most people deal with?
The way it's translated for me and this is where it's been the most handy for, my day-to-day decisions, and I think that's where it counts. And I want to make it really clear when I'm talking about making brave decisions, I'm not necessarily talking about jumping on out of a plane or lighting yourself on fire, because that often comes attached with ego. But I think fear doesn't care about context, right? So it can show up at whether you're jumping out of a plane or you're trying to have a difficult conversation. And for me, where it's helped is that moment of, as you say, hesitation. I've learned different tools and momentum to get through that moment where you think hesitation is about to stop you and it's going to stop the momentum. So for me, learning to not retreat when I immediately feel that fear and instead sit in it for a second, ask myself, is it a real fear? Where is the fear
Yeah.
coming from? And sit in that discomfort and recognize that it is just discomfort. It's not danger. That then gives me the comfort, well, the courage, not the confidence, the
Yeah.
courage to, for example, raise my hand and ask that question in front of a crowd when I don't want to, or ask for an opportunity, challenge someone. And because the moment you hesitate, and the hesitation is often caused because it feels like danger, so you want to retreat from it, but you're like, it's just discomfort. It's okay. You're not going to die. You can move through it. So for me, the day-to-day mini moments of courage are what is massively more important than doing this grand feat that's going to get a ton of likes on social media. That doesn't help people move forward in life.
Yeah, well, you did mention right now, and it's an important point to think about asking yourself, is it real? Because a lot of times what your brain is telling you isn't real. But there are some real fears that you probably had to face, like, did you ever have a fear of dying? Like, "Hey, I'm about to light myself on fire, or I'm falling out of this plane." It is a possibility, right? Those are real
It
fears, so how did you manage those?
It is. There are real fears, but I always tell people I'm not in the business of encouraging like impulsive behavior or reckless activity. It's about calculated risk. For example, we drive on freeways every day, and that's just as risky, if not more risky, sometimes than what can be perceived as something really dangerous. Like some of the stunts that I am seeing doing look incredibly dangerous, and they would be if we hadn't put safety mechanisms in place where we could think about what could go wrong. So, in regards to kind of risk taking or taking calculated risks, the way I always approach things is, what is the worst case scenario? That's fine. And then put things in place to try and mitigate those risks, whether it's preparing for a meeting, studying, for me, any form of like, safety mechanism within a stunt. But once you've done everything that you know you can do, you just have to say to yourself, now's the time to stop negotiating with fear and just do it. Because that's the only way that you get answers. If you don't
Yeah.
take that risk and you wait for everything to be perfectly in place, you're never going to go. But you can tell yourself, I have done as much as humanly possible to mitigate the risk. Now is the time to be brave and take that first step. And that's how you get data, that's how you get information, and that's how you get answers, and that's how the fear dissipates. Because
Yep.
most people always think just right before they're going to do something scary, that's when the fear builds. And the lie that we tell ourselves is if we do the scary thing, that fear is going to continue to build. But
Yeah.
the most scared that you're ever going to feel is right before you do it. The moment you do it, the fear dissipates, and then you get
Yeah.
answers and information.
And relief.
And relief, complete relief, and quite often joy.
Well, and that fear can be turned into it's usually turned into energy for whatever activity you're doing, right? Like that
Mhm,
fear, so it's all about how you handle it. I love the way you look at fear and decide to plunge,
mm,
and I think that's why a lot of people live complacent in their lives, right? Because they're just scared. Whether and it's those little things that add up, and so they
mhm.
stay at the same job, the same neighborhood, the same type of thing, but I'm sure, they wish they could be doing other things, but it's fear that stops them, and so I always say, "Plug your nose and jump in," right? Like you're jumping in a
Totally.
pool.
Mhm, and that's one of the things you're mitigating a little bit of risk and fear. It's like, "Okay, I can put a nose plug in, that helps. Still gotta jump."
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, going from like police officer to professional skydiver, stunt woman, and now keynote speaker, all totally different. But out of all the roles, which one is challenging you emotionally the most?
Keynoting for sure, without a doubt, because it's not just about you now, right? You're giving advice and you're taking responsibility for other people's way that they may view the world, but also you're exposing yourself emotionally a lot more because you're explaining your vulnerabilities, you're putting yourself out there, and it's just you, so you're being a lot more open and a lot more vulnerable, and to share your experiences and your failures in the hopes that it will help other people, that's a really brave thing to do. So emotionally vulnerable and most emotionally challenging, and for sure keynote speaking, putting everything that you've learned into something that can actually teach others.
Right. And going back to what you said earlier, a lot of times when you see a keynote on stage and you're watching them, you're just like, wow, they're incredible. Look at the
Hmm.
confidence. But
Hmm.
almost and every speaker that I've spoke to that I know that has gone on stage, they have that same fear before going on. Even if they've done that same speech before, or they've done these stages before, that still jumps in. So it's like it's a good reminder that it never goes away. And you said that earlier.
Totally. It never goes away, and I always try and make this really clear with people. I get scared seemingly inconsequential things. I get nerves, physical nerves all the time, and I stopped trying to get rid of them a long time ago because it wasn't serving me, because I always used to think if I was feeling nervous then I was failing, and that would in turn make me feel more nervous for feeling nervous.
Yeah.
And then I actually heard a quote once that changed everything for me. It's like, "You're not scared, your body is just preparing you to do something awesome." So when I feel those
Mm,
nerves creeping in, I'm like, "Here we go. You're about to do something really important." And feeling scared doesn't mean that you're not capable. You're actually admitting you're about to do something really brave because you're feeling nerves and you're doing it anyway. So over time, I've actually the way I do it is I separate my brain from my body. I feel my body start to get very nervous, like the adrenaline, the shortness of breath, the tingles. And
yeah.
I have my head talk or my brain talk to my body and be like, okay, I can feel you getting ready. That's great. Up here, we're just going to slow things down and we're gonna chill while you do whatever you're doing to get me ready. And then those feelings of nerves start to feel kind of like a familiar companion. It's like
Yeah.
reminding me something really awesome is on the other side of this feeling. It's okay. You don't need to panic about feeling them.
So I love this, and I'm gonna kind of go off topic a little bit because I do think it's important and it's something that we don't talk about enough on the mental health side,
Mm,
but it just kind of, you triggered something within me. When we're talking about fear, a lot of people live with anxiety, panic attacks,
mhm.
especially with the amount of stress that we're under. Now, when we talk
Yes.
specifically about panic attacks, right? It's this
Mhm.
fear that jumps in.
Yes.
And, understanding fear the way you do, how do you think that plays a role and how and we know you're not a doctor yet. We can add that to the list later. But, how would you recommend somebody manage it? I mean, would you think it's the same mentally,
It's
when your
it's
brain's
it's
telling you that lie?
sure. It's such a great question because fear and anxiety, while they are two separate things, fear is an emotion and anxiety is a state. More and more papers are showing that they're finding it more difficult to separate those two things, and they do overlap. Whereas fear is supposed to be kind of like an immediate perceived threat, I guess. I think what is it that they say? I feel like I wrote the definition somewhere.
Like when a lion is chasing you, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's like an uncomfortable it's often, it's a strong emotion, that's it, caused by anticipation or awareness of danger, whereas anxiety is a little bit more of this lingering feeling or sense of doom or worry, but they both trigger threat avoidance responses, right?
mhm,
Of
yeah.
sometimes wanting to seek the relief as opposed to kind of the lean into it and the long-term goals. So I've suffered from bouts of anxiety as well. We all have. We're in that day and age where I think it's almost impossible to not go through stages of that. But I do approach it quite similarly to fear in regards to, and I've had full on panic attacks as well.
Right, and
But
that's like
to,
that's pure fear, right? It's different from being anxious, and so that's where it's like,
yes,
you have to tell
yeah,
yourself this isn't real.
it's not real. And the biggest thing is ask yourself the questions: what am I feeling? What am I scared of? And is there any truth to what I'm feeling? Because quite
Right.
often it's something to do that we're creating a story in our head that may or may not happen in the future. And more often than not,
Yes.
it never ever does. So the what we're doing is creating this story in between the future and now that's giving us anxiety. So I always have to say to myself, is anything that I've just said true? It's not, because it's we're not scared of the unknown, we're scared of the story that we're telling ourselves about the unknown, and that's how I
So
get
true.
through it for myself.
So true, and you're right, it can be applied anywhere in life because it is the story that we tell ourselves inside.
Absolutely.
So, we're talking about, right, like, sometimes when you're feeling anxious, you're having a panic attack, you have some of those physical symptoms that it creates just from out
Mhm.
so when you're looking at fear outside of anxiety, when you're it could be on stage or a stunt, what does it feel like for you physically and mentally before something big?
I'm convinced audiences or teammates or anyone looking can hear my heart. It pounds. It rapidly spikes and it's loud. I feel my mouth go dry, my hands get tingly, I get full butterflies. I almost go into a state of outside looking in.
Right.
So I don't ever want people to think that I feel calm a lot of the time. I don't. I've just learned to kind of, like I said earlier, accept it and it become a familiar thing that's telling me this means you're about to do something really challenging. Take a deep breath, take that first step. You always come out the other side a braver and better person. And
Yep.
it's like it's the same thing. It's a practice. It's a muscle. The more you get used to doing that and moving through that feeling, the easier it becomes. I wouldn't say that that feeling is ever, like, comfortable or exciting. It's just something that has become familiar, and we're like, "Okay, there it is. Something important is
Right.
about to happen. You're
Yep.
okay. There is not a lion about to come and attack you.
You're
It's
safe.
okay." Yeah, and remember, the moment you move forward is when this feeling dissipates. This is as scary as it's going to get. That's what I say to myself the moment before I step on the stage. The moment I say, the director starts saying rolling, performer's set, my everything will start to peak. But I always remind myself this is as scary as it's going to get. The moment you go, the fear goes.
Yeah, and going back to what you said too, it's the story that we tell ourselves. So what I'm hearing is you have to tell yourself a new story. So when you have that first story saying, "Okay, that's not true," now you create the new story and you have to tell yourself that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And success or failure, you get answers, you get data, you get information to pivot or get better or move forward. But staying on the other side of that action, the fear lingers and you don't get any information. That's a
Yeah.
horrible, I call it the ick. Then you're just sitting in this like lingering ick, and it's
It's
worse than,
awful.
for
Yeah.
me, that is way more awful than having that one moment of like, "Fuck it," and going.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that moment right there when you just go. By the way, I get dry mouth too. I didn't know that was a thing. Like when I
Mhm.
get nervous, I'm like,
Okay. Which is great for speaking, right?
yeah, right? All right, note, give Hannah water before she goes on stage.
Like a bottle of water close to me.
So moving into like the business side of things, because now you're speaking on stages and you're working with a lot of businesses. Do you think that high performers are naturally wired differently, or do they simply build a different relationship with fear or discomfort?
That's such a good question. And I would argue that it's the second, that they have got a better working relationship with discomfort. Because everybody that I speak to, when you see them, for example, up on stage or leading a meeting, you're like, God damn, this person has got their shit together.
Right.
But when you pull them aside and one on one, they are dealing with all the same insecurities, worry, confidence issues. I think especially women who I like to talk to the most, I do believe they've just got a better relationship. They've just practiced being uncomfortable more and have failed more.
Yeah.
And I really do feel pretty strongly about that. I'm happy to be proven another way, but I can say from my experience and everybody that I've ended up interviewing or talking to have a better relationship with discomfort. They've gotten comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right. And it builds resiliency over time. And like you said, things become familiar and you're able to get up and do it that much easier the next time. So,
Totally. It's like doing a push-up. One day you can do one, the next day you can do 20. It's just you have to build it. It's like any muscle, any repetition.
yep.
Yeah, it doesn't you don't do it just one time and go, "Phew, I've done it." And it's an
Right.
ongoing practice. Like I say, every time I step on stage, I'm not getting rid of that scary feeling. I'm
Right. It
just
might be a
learning
little
how
bit
to move with
less,
it.
but it's still going to always be there for sure.
Totally. Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. I can relate to that 'cause people are always like, you're just so good at it. Why are you, are you telling me I don't get scared? Like, this is one of the scariest things ever, right? But it does get easier over time and you learn new
Absolutely.
tricks at least to deal with it.
Yeah,
So,
and but quite often it will sneak up on you. Just the moment you think, "I've got this," or "I'm not scared anymore,"
right.
it can sneak up on you, and you're like, "Oh gosh, I'm
Yeah, there
really
it is.
nervous." But there's tools to kind of keep that momentum going, and that's what I talk about a lot. It's like when it sneaks up on you, it's
Yeah.
it's about keeping the momentum going because fear can just become such a friction, but it doesn't need to be. It can just be a
I
companion.
absolutely. Looking at all the things that you've done, I mean, like crashing cars, being set on fire, like I just guys, being set on fire. I got to hear more about this, but skydiving, what moment actually scared you the most?
Ye
Or I mean, there's
you know,
probably a moment for
he
all of them, like right beforehand, right?
I,
But
I'm I'm gonna be really honest here and throw a curveball in these things, having been, like a police officer or a skydiver or a stunt person. In regards to being a police officer, I've done some crazy things, like some raids. Have been in, some gnarly bar fights, some public disorder situations. The scariest thing I had to do was when I was in charge of a raid that we had to do, and I had to walk into the briefing room and brief 20 male police officers and be in charge of them for the first time. Genuinely, that was the scariest part. For me,
yeah,
skydiving, turning up to the skydiving center on my own and walking into a room full of men and being the only woman there, I would argue was scarier than jumping out of the plane for the first time. So it's
wow,
all
yeah,
relative, the courage and the confidence that you build. It it I always say this, if you're scared and you did it, that means you were incredibly brave. It doesn't matter what it was. Yeah, the jumping out the plane or the being set on fire looks amazing and looks glamorous. But does that make me brave if it didn't particularly scare me when there's other small things that I've been way more scared at? And that's what I want other people to know is it doesn't have to be some spectacular feat that everybody is amazed at for you to be
right.
brave. Yeah.
Well, you just prove that, and like you said, everybody has a different well, I might be scared of skydiving itself. I
Mhm.
haven't. Which, by the way, actually, I just thought about one thing we do have in common is you ride motorcycles, right? You
I
said you
do,
ride
yes.
what kind of
Mhm.
motorcycle do you have?
I have a KTM Duke, a
I
390, so
love
it's
it.
kinda like a baby one, yeah.
Well, we're going just so everybody knows, Hannah and I are going for a ride because she doesn't live too far from me. But it's funny because, like, I'll ride motorcycles. I won't sit on the back of one. because I don't have control. And I have, okay, so you agree. Like, every come on, hop on the back of my bike. You ride. Yeah, I ride. I need to be in control.
Very much so. Yeah, and I could argue, honestly, one of the scariest skydives I've done is when I was helping somebody get their tandem instructor rating, and I had to go on the front of them. I had 0 control, and they told me I was the worst passenger that they'd ever take.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And even though I know how you should ride on the back, I would be the one
Yeah,
that would probably lean the wrong way and like I
totally. It is all relative. But to go back on your point as well, I'm not gonna say that jumping out of a plane for the when I was learning to skydive, not the tandem, my very first skydive when I had instructors holding onto me either side like training wheels, that first skydive was genuinely quite terrifying to the point that I felt like I was having an out of body experience, and I did learn a lot on that first jump though, because we trained and trained and trained, and I knew all the drills and I knew what I needed to do. And as I was walking to the door, I remember thinking, oh God, it would be so easy just to say no now. And I told myself, just do the first thing, which is check in with your instructor, then say up, move your body up, down, and step out of the plane. That's all you need to do, up, down, out. And because I just
Yep.
remember going, everything else will follow. If you think about the end result too much or everything that comes after up, down, out, you're gonna say no. So I did
Right.
learn so often, just do the first thing, and you'll always be surprised how much you'll rise to the occasion after you do that first brave thing. Once you're in it, you have to go. So sometimes I trick myself into scary things by just taking that first step and not overthinking all the other challenges because it's too easy to get overwhelmed that way.
Yeah, I know how to do that. Some people don't necessarily know how to do that, but if you know how to just simply turn off your brain, you just gotta, like, drown it out and like you said, up, down, out, and you focus on
Mhm.
something like that, that has worked. I've used
Yes.
a very similar way. What advice would you give someone who's listening right now who feels stuck, but they're waiting to feel ready?
Well, first off, you are never going to feel ready. Again, if we're waiting to feel ready or for the fear to disappear or any kind of certainty, you're never going to do it. And I often say that waiting for certainty is the most effective way to stay stuck because it's just
Yep.
not going to come. I have tons of different tools, but ones that quite often resonate with people is I often think about future me, like me in the future. If you think about where you are now versus where you were 10 years ago, 10 years ago, you thinks you're pretty probably freaking rad and got your shit together.
Right.
So I often think about when I'm about to take maybe a scary decision, or there's something blocking me that I know I really want, but it feels way too terrifying. I think about future me standing behind me and just gently pushing me forward to take that first step and reminding myself that future me is actually standing next to me with me. And for
I
me,
like
that's
that.
very clear visual that helps me just go, okay, here we go, lean in.
Yeah, I really like that. I always live and I know it sounds so simple, but I've always said the words just life is short, you know? When I wanna say no to something, life is short. Like, I only get to come here for this very short period of time. I wanna make it worth it. I mean, look, if I'm already taking the course to skydive and I'm up in the plane, don't back out now. Like, you did it for a reason,
You've
right?
already done exactly.
But it
You're
goes back to the
right
story
there.
you tell yourself, right? So,
Yes,
I
completely.
I
And I
like the future self idea. I like that.
totally. And sometimes the way as well when I think about that is again it's simple and silly, but I joke that we all need sometimes just a little bit more fuck it in our life. Because
Yes.
if you give me enough time, I can talk myself out of doing anything and I can rationalize it well as to why I shouldn't do anything. And the only way to get rid of doubt is action. So sometimes you just have to say fuck it and go. Again,
I
you
Hannah's
don't have the
motto.
confidence. You really do. You're not gonna have the confidence to feel great, so you just have to say, "Fuck it," and get the confidence at the other side of it. Fail or succeed, you're going to get more confidence to be better, and you'll get
Well, I
answers.
don't I just wanna end on this. I don't think it's fair that you come here with this beautiful British accent because you can say curse words and get on stage and sound so amazing. Because if I say "fuck it," it sounds really bad, but when you say "fuck it" and I know I told you this last time, I feel like you have a competitive advantage against me.
That's too funny. I love it. I'll take it.
No, I do. I'm sure you get it often. We do love your accent here.
Thank you. It's diluted a little bit now. My British friends, like, just roll their eyes at me. They're like, "You
Well, I'm
sound so
sure.
American." Yeah,
You're like, "No, but that's not what my American friends say."
exactly.
Well, I know you do speaking engagements. How can people reach out to you if they wanna get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as Hannah Betts one. My email is speaking at thehannahbetts.com. And I also have a website called leaningintofear.com where you can learn a little bit more about me and what my background was and how I got there.
I love that. How long have you had that domain?
It, not very long,
Wow,
actually, believe
surprising.
it
I
or
love that.
not. Yeah, I was,
Leaningintofear.com.
and that's the title of my keynote. That's kind of how I go about life. Try and lean into it rather than retreat from it.
I love that, and I will have that link in the comments, guys, if you guys wanna reach out to Hannah. I mean, like I said, I adore you. I'm so glad that I get to know you and get to spend time with you. You've already taught me so much, and I think a lot of people can resonate with, facing fear on a daily basis with the big things and the small things. And so it's really powerful because you bring such a human perspective to something that people spend their whole lives trying to outrun. It's about building trust with yourself in the middle of it all, telling yourself that new story, and your story proves that even people who look fearless still feel uncertainty, there's self doubt and pressure. And the difference is that they move anyways. So, guys, if this resonated, please share it with somebody who needs to hear this message. Again, Hannah, thank you for being here, for sharing your story so honestly, and for reminding people that growth usually lives on the other side of discomfort. And it's true because success lives on the other side of fear. I always say that. And to everyone listening, again, if this spoke to you, please share. And don't forget the motto when you're facing fear, sometimes you just need to say, fuck it and go. Did it sound okay coming from me?
I
All right,
love
until
it. It's
next time,
perfect.
thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.